All right, all right, all right. This is not ESPN's 30 for 30. However, it is my 98 for 98. 98 seasons in the history of the New York Football Giants, and I'm going to try to get it done in 98 days. Probably not going to happen, but I am going to get it done before September 10th, which is the first game of the regular season between the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants. And we're forging ahead. We finally made it to the 1980s. Can you believe it? This is the Lawrence Taylor season, although we didn't draft Lawrence Taylor until 1981, but this is the 56th season in the history of the New York Giants. 56th season in the history of the New York Giants, 61st season in the history of the NFL. NFL started in 1920, Giants started in 1925. The Giants are 5 years younger than the NFL is. So, what can you say? The good news, all right, is that if you can look at a 4-12 season, and it was painful. Another painful. There was no lack of offense. The defense was putrid. I mean, but if you can look at it in a good way, this is the last season of the wilderness years. 1964 to 1980, no playoff appearances. 2 winning seasons, no playoff appearances in 17 seasons. So this is the 17th and final season of the wilderness years. I got to hold on. I can reach back here. Pat myself on the back that I got through these 17 seasons without wanting to just kill myself. Reliving those memories, just wow. Wow. Yeah, so 4-12. Yeah. Let's see what Wikipedia has to say about the New York football, 1980-19 football Giants. It's the second season for George Young, the new Giants, new GM. Second season also for Ray Perkins, the coach. Now, they were 6-10, 1979. You kind of figure, they maybe improve on that, maybe get to 7 wins, maybe, who knows, 8-8? Was that too much to ask? Apparently it was. Apparently it was. The 1980 New York Giants season was the franchise's 56th season in the National Football League. Giants finished not like a broken record here. Giants finished in last place in the National Football Conference with the NFC East with a record of 4-12. In the 1980 NFL Draft, this was one of the bright spots. The Giants didn't have many bright spots in the draft, but this was certainly one of them. In the 1980 NFL Draft, in the first round, they selected defensive back Mark Haynes with their first round pick, which 8th overall, and good pick indeed. New York won its opening game of the season. 41-35 over the Cardinals. That was pretty much about the extent of their scoring for the season. But the 35 points they gave up was kind of an omen of things to come. Behind a 5-touchdown performance by quarterback Phil Simms. 4 of those touchdown passes were to Ernest Gray. Now, in 1979, the Giants, first pick they took was Phil Simms. Then the next one they got was he needs somebody to throw the ball to, right? They took Ernest Gray. 4 of those touchdown passes were to Ernest Gray, who set a single-game franchise record for touchdown receptions. The Giants lost the following game to Washington by 2 points, the start of an 8-game losing streak. Week 10 over the Dallas Cowboys snapped the streak. A subsequent win over the Green Bay Packers was followed by a pair of defeats. A shoulder injury caused Phil Simms to miss the last 3 games. Now, this was going to things start to foreshadowing things to come, right? Injuries to Phil Simms. The 1980, 1981, 1982 injuries. A shoulder injury caused Simms to miss the last 3 games of the season. Scott Brunner, who the Giants drafted during the 1980 draft, took over as the starting quarterback for the final 3 games, during which the Giants went 1-2. Sims threw for 2,321 yards in his 13 appearances. He had 15 touchdown passes. Unfortunately, 5 of them came in the first game. So basically, as his last 12 games, he threw 10 touchdown passes. He had 15 touchdown passes on the season and 19 interceptions. Bruner threw for 4 touchdown passes and had 6 interceptions. So the Giants had 25 interceptions as a team in 16 games. New York's leading rusher, Billy Taylor, who ran for 580 yards and 4 touchdowns, ran for 580 yards in 16 games. Gray had a team-leading 10 touchdown receptions during the season and caught 52 passes for 777 yards. On defense, Mike Dennis led the Giants with 5 interceptions. 2 of the Giants players, Dave Jennings and Brad Van Pelt, were selected to the 1981 Pro Bowl. So let's go over, let's see, their 4 preseason games here first before we dive into the draft, shall we? Once again, the Giants continue their yearly series with the Pittsburgh Steelers. This time, the Steelers would win 13-0. Shall I say the defending Super Bowl champions, Pittsburgh Steelers, won 13-0. Then on August 9th, Saturday, August 9th. So on Saturday, August 16th, the Denver Broncos came to Giants Stadium, and the Giants won 9-6. So basically, the Giants scored 9 points in the first 2 preseason games. Looks like they didn't score a touchdown in their first 2 preseason games. Looks like they kicked basically 3 field goals. An omen of things to come. The following week, the Giants on Friday, August 22nd, the Giants went to Memorial Stadium in Baltimore, Maryland, and they lost to the Colts 37-20. Then the following week, final preseason game, Saturday, August 30th, against the New York Jets, the Giants lost 32-7. So the Giants were 1-3 in their preseason games. Not what you like to see, but it is what it is. But I mean, in 3 of those games, they scored single-digit points in 3 of those games. So in their 4 preseason games, the Giants scored 36 points. In their 4 preseason at 36 points, averaged 9 points a preseason game. Not what you want to say. All right, so in the draft. Giants did a little later on in the draft here. They did a little wheeling and dealing going on there. So, but in the first round, since the Giants were 6-10 the year before, they drafted number 8 overall. So once again, the first round, they wound up taking Mark Haynes, right, defensive back, wound up being a very, very good pick. The problem is that understandably so, he did very good for the Giants. But after a few years, I think it was 84 and then 85. I think, he wanted to get paid. Once again, understandably so. Because he mentioned that there were other guys on the team getting paid and this, that, and the other thing, and he was doing very well. Let's see. I'm trying to think. We can see. You should be able to click on his name. It should pop up here. How many? There we go. How many Pro Bowls and everything he went to here? There's a Mark Haynes, number 36. Let's see. So he was an All-Pro 1982 and 1984. He went to the Pro Bowl 82, 83, 84. So I mean, around, I forgot what it was, but 84 and 85 or whatever. I can't remember if he held out or he was threatening to hold out or whatever, because he wanted to get paid. And apparently, what he said, the Giants were going to pay him, and they reneged on it or something. Or so in 1985 rolled around. He only played 5 games for the Giants. He started in 1, but his time was coming to an end in New York. And so he wound up going to the Denver Broncos for the final 4 years of his career. And the shame of it was, is what it is. But, obviously he wanted to get paid. So I guess he went to the Broncos and I guess they paid him enough, I guess, that satisfied him. But the thing is after 85, he went to the Broncos in 86. Well, in 86, the Giants won the Super Bowl. He would have had himself a Super Bowl ring. Which nowadays he probably could sell, if he wanted to, for what his salary was back then. But anyway, he wound up going to the Broncos in 86, and the Giants went to the Super Bowl, and they played the Broncos in 86, and the Giants wound up winning. So he was having some problems with the Giants. That was before obviously free agency and all that stuff. So in his time with the Giants, as I said, he was an All-Pro 2 times. He went to the Pro Bowl 3 straight seasons. He was a very good defensive back. 1984, he had the second time he was an All-Pro. He had 7 interceptions. He played in almost all the games. He played in actually almost every game, pretty much. He only missed he played on let's say 1, 2. Looks like he maybe missed 3 games in his first 5 years of his career. So he was a very, very good pick for the Giants. It's just that when came around to it, he want obviously you want to get paid. So there was some problems going on there. So his time with the Giants, was coming to he only stayed so long with the Giants. All right, so as in the first round, the Giants took Mark Haynes, very good pick. Then in round 2, the Giants traded with the Steelers. So the Giants were doing some wheeling and dealing. Right, the Giants wound up getting Gordon Gravel from the Steelers. So they traded their second overall pick to the Steelers for Gordon Gravel, an offensive lineman. All right. Now they could have done better. They could have done worse, but that's what they did with their second round pick. Then the round 3, the Giants, they selected Myron Lapka, who did not have a very, let's see if I can pop these up here. Did not have a very long dream. All right, here we go. Myron Lapka, a nose tackle. He played 4 years. Was obviously was nothing, nothing super spectacular. He played, looks like 16 games in 4 seasons, so it was nothing super spectacular there. All right, so that was their, that was their 3rd round pick. I know they had a couple trades here, so I'm trying to go down slow so I don't miss any of them. All right, so in the 4th round, the Giants wound up taking Danny Pittman. Let's see, how long did he last? He was a wide receiver. He played for 5 seasons. He had 46 career catches in 5 seasons. So, nothing super spectacular there. All right, so then we get their 4th round selection, and we got their 5th round selection. They wound up taking Tony Blount. Tony Blount, defensive back. This was only played 1 season, 1980. And their 6th round pick wound up being a very advantageous selection for the Giants because he got used quite a bit early on. Was Scott Bruner, the backup quarterback. So actually, he was very instrumental in leading the Giants in 1981 when they went to the playoffs and they won the playoff game. So he was not a phenomenal quarterback. He had his limitations, but he did help the Giants, go to the playoffs in 1981. All right, so in round 7, the Giants, where we had here, traded. The Giants got Mike McCoy from the Raiders. So the Giants traded their 7th round pick away to the Raiders. So, but in return, the Giants got Mike McCoy. Then in the later on in the 7th round, the Giants traded Dan Dornick, who was like a fullback. They selected him like 2 years earlier. So he only played like 2 years with the Giants. He traded him to the Seahawks. All right, so the Giants wound up getting Darry Bud Herbert. How long did he play for? He was a defensive back. He played one season. That was it. All right. All right. I mean, the picks were these picks were not very good. Yeah, not very good at all. All right. Then the Giants got in the seventh round. They traded Jack Gregory back to the Browns. Now the Giants got Gregory from the Browns. Jack Gregory played for the Giants from 1960. No, my bad. Jack Gregory played for the Browns from 67 to 71. 1971, after 71, the Browns traded him to the Giants. He played for the Giants from 1972 to 1978. So in 1979, he played his final season back with the Browns. So in return, the Giants wound up getting Chris Linnen. Did he even play? Yeah, it looks like he played one season. He was a defensive end, played one season, and that was it. Played in 10 games, so that was it. So the rest of their draft is really not very good at all. Wow, I mean, we're in the seventh round too, so got to keep that in mind. All right, so round 8, the Giants took Ken Harris. Ken Harris was a running back. He never made it in the pros. All right, so let's see here. Round 9, I think that was the end of their trading. Round 9, the Giants took Otis Wansley, who played running back. I don't think it was all with the Giants, no, but he played 5 seasons in the NFL. Who did he play with here? Otis Wansley. Oh, he never even made it with the Giants. He wound up making it with the Washington Redskins. So he played 5 seasons with the Redskins, and you know what? Good for him because he wound up winning the Super Bowl with them. After the 1982 season. So good for him. All right. So, obviously, also we're getting up in the later rounds too. So you got to keep that in mind here when these guys don't make it or whatever. So that was round 9. All right, round 10, the Giants took Joe Sanford, who was a tackle. He never made it. And the Giants took round 11. We got 12 rounds. The Giants took Steve Burnish, who was a defensive end. Once again, he never made it. This last guy, though, did make it. Their final pick 313, the 8th pick in the 12th round, was Mike Lansford. Now, he had himself a nice little career. He was a kicker. Right, so he kicked from 1982 to 1990. However, it was all with the Rams. He never kicked with the Giants. So, actually, the Giants probably could have used him because they had from like 84 to 8 or 85 to 87 or somewhere. They used a ton of kickers, and they certainly could have used somebody like him. But I mean, they had Joe Danello, who they were relying on. But I mean, Lansford actually wound up having a pretty good career. He wound up his field goal percentage was 72.8%, which was better than Joe Danello's, I can tell you that much. So, I mean, maybe they should have kept him. But it is what it is. So, I mean, the Giants, their draft was nothing super spectacular, but I mean, their first overall pick was a real good one. You draft somebody who winds up being an all-pro, and a guy obviously goes to the Pro Bowl and all that. That's pretty good. But they also drafted their backup quarterback too. But other than that, there was not much going on there. I mean, as I said, I mean, their team was not very good. I mean, let's go over some of this here. I mean, their run defense was horrible. Of course, that would all change the following season. But let's see, the Giants, what do they got here? They scored once again 15.6 points per game. I mean, absolutely putrid. They gave up 26.6 points per game. So basically, they gave up 11 more points per game than they scored. I mean, as I said, Phil Simms and Scott Bruner, they combined 19 touchdown passes, 25 interceptions. They completed 47.7% of their passes. They had, 2,931 yards passing. Right? I mean, the running, was just, they scored 10. See, this was their biggest problem. They scored 10 rushing touchdowns, which was horrible. They averaged 3.6 yards per carry, which was absolutely horrible. They gave up 31 rushing touchdowns during the season. 31. They gave up 4.3 yards a carry. They gave up 156.7 yards per game running the ball. Absolutely horrible. I mean, that was their big. But 31 rushing touchdowns. Basically, every game they gave up 2 rushing touchdowns. I mean, absolutely horrible. Joe Janello, what was he? I mean, he didn't have too bad of a season. He kicked 16 out of 24 field goals. He was 66.7%. He made 27 out of 28 extra points. You know, what do you got? And they only had 28 sacks on the season. They gave up 47. I mean, let's see. Gary Jeter led the team with 10 sacks, and then George Martin had 8. So they had 18 of those two guys had 18 of the 28 sacks. So, of course, none of them were official because that didn't become official until 1982. But they gave up a bunch of sacks. They couldn't stop the run. I mean, their passing defense was not very good. We're going to go over one of the games that set an NFL record. All right. Let's see. What do they got? They gave up. Yeah, I mean, they only gave up 22 passing touchdowns, which is, but they gave up almost 57% completion. Right? I mean, just, not very good at all. Not very good at all. So let's go over their game by game here, okay? And we'll they started off the season. They wound up winning, right? The first game of the season. They went into St. Louis and they won 41-35. The Giants had like 2 games where they scored a lot of points. They had 2 games where they scored, 79 points in 2 games. The rest of the season, their scoring was just absolutely really bad. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 of their 16 games, they scored single digits in points. Almost half their games, they scored single digits in points. Absolutely horrible. All right, then the following week, the Washington Redskins would come to town. And the Redskins would win 23-21. Mark Mosley kicked a field goal, 45-yarder. I don't remember if that was like in the final seconds of the game or whatever it was, but the Giants were winning 21-20, and Mark Mosley kicked a 45-yard field goal to send the Giants down to defeat. So the Giants, it was a 1-1. They, still maybe a little bit of hope, right? 1-1. They lost a real close one. But then we had the Monday, another Monday night debacle. This was 73, 75, 77, 79, and 80. Right. The Giants, 73, 77, 79, and 80. The Giants lost 130-9 in 4 Monday Night Football games. The 1975 game, they went on the road. Big upset. They beat the Bills 17-14. It was a very exciting game. George Hunt kicked the game-winning field goal with like 5, 6, 7 seconds to go in the game. Very exciting game. The Giants were down 14-0. They came back, tied it up, and then they scored, and they wound up winning. They held O.J. Simpson, held them to 126 yards, I think it was, rushing. So, I mean, it's just a very, very exciting game. But 1973, the Giants lost 40-6 to the Rams. Then they lost 1977. They lost 28-0 to the Cardinals. 1979, they lost 27-0 to the Washington Redskins. And then in I don't know why, 1979, they lose 27-0. So let's put the Giants back on Monday Night Football again. So this time, they lost 35-3 to the Philadelphia Eagles. Now I'm not sure why. I don't know why. Honest to goodness to gracious, I just don't know why. The Giants played Monday Night Football, 1970, 1971, 1972, 1973, 1975, 1977, 1979, and 1980. And I don't know why. I should know why, but I don't know why. From 70 to 80, in those 11 seasons, the Giants played Monday Night Football 8 times. Right? 70, 71, 72, 73, 75, 77, 79, 80. Right? Yeah. 8 8 times. Every one of those games was on the road. I don't know why. Don't know why. 1970, they played on the road in Philly. 1971, they played on the road in Dallas. 1972, they played on the road once again in Philly. 1973, they played on the road in the Rams in Los Angeles. 1975, they played on the road in Buffalo. 1977, they played on the road in St. Louis. 1979, they played on the road in Washington. 1980, they played on the road in Philadelphia. Don't know why. For whatever reason, they did not have the Giants. They wouldn't have them playing home Monday Night Football game. I don't know why. So after the Giants got mauled 35-3 to the Philadelphia Eagles, now the Giants stood at 1-2. So the Giants, this is just a horrible. The following week, the Los Angeles Rams came, and the Los Angeles Rams were a good team. The Los Angeles Rams won 28-7. So now the Giants are 1-3. So then the Giants went to Dallas in the 5th week of the season. They lost 24-3. Once again, single-digit points they scored. The following week, the Philadelphia Eagles came to town, and once again, the Philadelphia Eagles opened up a can of whoop butt on the Giants, and they beat them 31-16. Now the Giants are 1-5, but keep in mind, the Philadelphia Eagles were a very good team. 1980, the Philadelphia Eagles went to the Super Bowl. It wasn't much of a Super Bowl, but the Philadelphia Eagles went to the Super Bowl in 1980. Then we had Week 7. This is where the NFL record got set. Right? I mean, it was, this goes to show you how just horrible, putrid their defense was, how ungodly, horrible their pass defense was. I'll get the exact stats here for you. But they went to San Diego and they lost to the Chargers 44-7. The Chargers had 567 yards of offense, 31 first downs. It was 456 net yards of passing. Let's see how many yards Dan Fouts actually threw for. I don't even know. They may not even have sacked him. 400. Oh, okay. They sacked him one time, lost 1 yard. So he threw for 457 yards. Dan Fouts. But that's not the kicker. The kicker square in the crotch. Well, it was the first time in NFL history that the 3 true receivers all had 100-yard games. The 2 wide receivers and the tight end all had 100-yard receiving games. First time in NFL history. So let's get the official count here for you. Charlie Joyner. I mean, these guys, these wide receivers have been just absolutely, just unbelievable. I mean, you couple them up with Dan Fouts. I mean, just unbelievable. The talent was just crazy. So you had Dan Fouts, future Hall of Famer, throwing the ball to. I mean, they also had Chuck Muncie there too. I mean, just what a offense they had. But Charlie Joyner caught 10 passes for 171 yards. John Jefferson, their other wide receiver, caught 5 passes for 107 yards. He would, if you threw the ball in his zip code, he'd come down with it. He was just phenomenal. The freakish catches he could make was just simply startling. Charlie Joyner, the All-Pro, was just unbelievable. Just what a veteran he was. But then their tight end, future Hall of Famer, Kellen Winslow, he caught 6 passes for 102 yards. It was the first time in NFL history that 3 true wide receivers, 2 wide receivers, and the 1 tight end all had 100 yards receiving in the same game. I mean, it just goes to show you how bad the Giants' defense was. So now the Giants, after they lost 44-7, once again, single-digit production. On the offense, once again, their offense was absolutely horrible. The following week, the Denver Broncos would come to town. The Giants would lose once again. The Denver Broncos 14-9. Once again, single-digit scoring. Now the Giants are 1-7. Then the Giants went to play Tampa Bay, and they lost 30-13. Once again, not scoring hardly any points. Now the Giants are 1-8. Season's over with. I mean, you can forget it. I mean, pretty much almost guaranteed their season was going to be worse almost than the year before. After 9 games, they're 1-8. 7 games to go. But at least the one nice thing was they did finish kind of strong. Out of the final 7 games, they went 3-4. maybe give you a little bit of hope for the following season. But you were kind of hoping after they went 6-10 in 1979, they can maybe work on that. But no, they went backwards. I mean, their offense was still stagnant and their defense got really bad. All right, so after they lost to Tampa Bay, somehow, by the act of God, somehow they managed to put up 38 points on the Dallas Cowboys, and they won 38-35. Very, very exciting game. Somehow the Giants went with 26 first downs, 462 yards. They had 345 yards passing. Somehow, I don't know how, but they won 38-35. It was a very, I mean, the Cowboys lost, so I mean, but I mean, regardless, it was a very exciting game. Very, very exciting game. So now the Giants, are 2-8. Following week, all right, they wound up winning again. They beat the Packers 27-21. Now the Giants are 3-8. So they went back-to-back games. Then the following week, they lost 12. They went back to their scoring ways. They went on the road and they lost to the San Francisco 49ers 12-0. Got shut out. So now the Giants are 3-9. 4 games to go. The Giants hosted the St. Louis Cardinals the following week. And it goes to show you, I mean, the first week of the season, the Giants scored 41 points on the road against St. Louis. While St. Louis comes to, the Cincinnati Giants are home. St. Louis is the road team. And the Giants score 7 points against the Cardinals. And they lose 23-7. So now the Giants are 3-10. Then in the following week, the Giants go on the road and they play the Seattle Seahawks, and they wind up winning 27-21. So now the Giants are at least 4-10, right? But they would wind up losing their final 2 games of the season. They would lose 16-13 to the Redskins on the road. It was on a Saturday, December 13th. They lost to the Redskins 16-13 in Washington. So now the Giants are 4-11. Then the final game of the season, the Giants lost at home to the Oakland Raiders 33-17. Now, the Raiders were good too because the Raiders won the Super Bowl that year. So the Giants lost 3 games to the teams that went to the Super Bowl that year. So you got to give them some credit. I mean, but I do remember in that game, the Raider game, the Giants were down. I think it was like 20. I think it was 26-10. They were down. And they had an onside kick, and it got ran back for a touchdown. Yeah. Say the Giants were down 27-10. They scored a touchdown late in the fourth quarter. I don't know what that was. 4 or 5 minutes to go in the game. I don't remember. But Billy Taylor scored on a 1-yard touchdown run to make it 27-17. Okay. I mean, the Giants were down like 27-10. So that's 17 points. So that's 3 scores. So regardless, so that Billy Taylor scores the touchdown. So now the Giants are down 27-17. So they still need 2 more scores. There wasn't much time. There was maybe a couple minutes left to go in the game. But then the Giants tried an onside kick, and I always remember this. The ball bounced up, and Derek Jensen, whoever it was, ball bounced up to him. He caught it like as he was running, and he ran it all the way back for a touchdown. That happens sometimes. I mean, you go in there and you try your onside kick and all that, and the guys are waiting for a bounce or this, that, the other thing, and it just happens to go just right, goes right to a guy who gets the ball, and maybe catches it as he's going forward, and he runs past your whole line of defense there, and he takes it into the end zone for a touchdown. So they missed the extra points, but the Raiders wound up winning 33-17. So the Giants finished, 4-12, right? But I mean, you can look at it 2 ways. I mean, the Giants had a bad season. What's up today? There's nobody named Francisco. The Bengals defeated Francis. Bengals ended Francis Fouts. The tie game, number 1 pick. 1980 was the last Buccaneer tie. Oh, didn't know that. Good to know. But you look at it, okay, that the Giants, because they were 4-12, all right. No, let me just cheat here real fast here. Let's go to the 1981 season. Can we do that? No, no, no. I'm sorry. No, hold on. No. My bad. 1980. No, that's right. 1980. That's here. The Jets were 4-12. Seahawks were 4-12. Giants were 4-12. The Saints were 1-15. All right. So they had the number 1 overall pick the following season. Okay. Somehow I'm not exactly sure how, but between the Giants must have wanted some type of a tiebreaker between the Jets and the Seahawks, because the Giants, the Jets, and the Seahawks all finished 4-12. So now let me cheat here. Can we cheat? Can we 19? Nope. There we go. All right, let's go to 1981, the 1981 draft. So I mean, you also got to look at it like this too. All right, is that it was a little blessing in disguise that the Giants. So somehow, I'm not exactly sure, because if you look at it, I don't understand how this happened, but the Giants, the Jets, and the Seahawks all wound up with 4-12. So somebody, the Saints were 1-15. They had the number 1 overall pick in the 81 draft. The Saints, my bad. The Seahawks, the Jets, and the Giants all wound up 4-12. So somebody had to pick second, somebody had to pick third, somebody had to pick fourth. So somehow, I don't know, the Giants wound up picking second. Now, it's kind of odd because the Giants beat the Seahawks. So I guess could be no kind of tiebreaker somehow like that. I don't know if it was a coin flip or exactly what it was. I should know and I should find out. But I mean, you figure it was a head-to-head kind of thing there. The Giants beat the Seahawks. You figure the Seahawks should draft before the Giants, but that was not the case. So in the draft in 1981, the Giants selected second. The Jets took third. The Seahawks were fourth. All right. So the Giants, when it came time for the Saints to pick, the Giants were all worried. They weren't sure if they were going to take George Rogers or they were going to take Lawrence Taylor. But they wound up taking George Rogers, which led Lawrence Taylor fell to the Giants at number 2, but kind of maybe quite possibly. Luckily, the Giants were number 2. They won the tiebreakers, however it was, with the Jets and the Seahawks. But I mean, also, once again, the Giants were 4-12, which allowed them to be the second pick overall in the 1981 draft, which allowed them to pick the greatest defensive player of all time, which definitely, one more time, definitely changed the future of the club, because they went from 4-12 in 1980 to 9-7 and a playoff berth in 1980 in one season, 4-12 to 9-7 and to the playoffs for the first time since 1963. First time in 18 seasons they went back to the playoffs because of one guy. So it was huge. So the Giants stinking in 1980 wound up being huge. Now, if we can start thinking about it, if say we won a couple more games, right? For some reason, let's say, let's say, I don't know. There weren't that many close games. I mean, they got blown out a lot. They lost 16-13 to the Redskins. And I said, but there weren't a lot of close games. They got blown out. And, then they lost 23-21 to the Redskins. Mark Mosley kicks a 45-yard field goal or whatever it was to beat the Giants, right? We'll say he misses the field goal. Say the Giants have one more win. Now they're picking 4th or 5th or something. Maybe Lawrence Taylor's not there, right? And, you got to really start thinking long and hard. If we didn't draft Lawrence Taylor, would we have won 2 Super Bowls? Kind of makes you think. I mean, I don't know about that 86 season. Maybe, 1990 was coming toward the end of his career. So maybe, I don't know. Maybe we would have won without him in 1990. Maybe, I don't know. 86, I don't think so. I'm not so sure about that. So, I mean, one guy. So having a crappy record really paid off for the New York Football Giants in 1981 when they were able to draft Lawrence Taylor. So, I mean, Teddy, I thank Wilbur Marshall for breaking Joe Montana's back every day because I broke my back too and identify as Joe Montana. Yep, yes, you do. We all need role models. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, so before we sign off here, So I mean, that was just a horrible, horrible season. However, once again, that was the final season of the wilderness years for the New York Giants, 1980. All right, so we go to the AFC. Buffalo won the AFC East with a record of 11-5. Cleveland Browns. Let's see here. They wound up winning. They were 11-5 in the AFC Central. They won. The Houston Oilers were in second place. They were 11-5. This is the first time in a long time that since 1971 that the Pittsburgh Steelers did not make the playoffs. They made the playoffs every year since 72. From 72 to 79, the Steelers were in the playoffs every year. So they were 9-7 this year. And in 1980, the Pittsburgh Steelers did not make the playoffs. In the AFC West, the Chargers won with a record of 11-5. The Raiders were in second place. They had a record of 11-5. So in the wild card playoffs, the Oakland Raiders beat the Houston Oilers 27-7 in the wild card game. So in the second round, the divisional round, the Oakland Raiders played the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland. Frigid, frozen, ungodly conditions. And the Oakland Raiders wound up winning 14-12. I believe that the Browns, I think, missed both 2 extra points. And that was the difference in defeat. Actually, they also had a chance right at the end of the game, and Brian Sipe throws an interception in the end zone. But it was frigid conditions. It was ungodly. It was amazing that a team from Oakland could go into Cleveland with conditions that cold and actually come out with a victory, but they did. So the Raiders won 14-12, and in the other game, the San Diego Chargers beat the Buffalo Bills 20-14, which made the AFC Championship game. The Oakland Raiders and the San Diego Chargers wound up being a very entertaining game. The Raiders won 34-27, sending them to the Super Bowl. Over in the NFC, the Eagles won the NFC East with a record of 12-4. They were tied with the Cowboys, but they won a tiebreaker, so the Cowboys were 12-4. So the Cowboys wound up as a wild card team. Minnesota Vikings, they won their division with a record of 9-7. The Atlanta Falcons won the NFC West with a record of 12-4. The Los Angeles Rams, with the other wild card team, their record was 11-5. So in the NFC playoffs, the Dallas Cowboys beat the Los Angeles Rams 34-13. In the divisional round, the Dallas Cowboys, in a very, very exciting football game. The Falcons were up like 27-17 or so. They were up with 2 touchdowns with like about 4 minutes to go in the game or something like that. And they gave up 2 late scores to the Cowboys, and the Cowboys came back and won it. I mean, it was a very, very, very exciting game. Very exciting game. But the Cowboys wound up winning 30-27. And in the other one at the Veterans Stadium, the Eagles beat the Minnesota Vikings 31-16, setting up the championship game between the Cowboys and the Eagles. And this is probably the only time in my life that I actually voted for the Eagles. Probably the only time. It wound up being, it was a very good game. It was a tough, low-scoring game. The Eagles wound up winning 20-7. I remember Wilbur Montgomery ran one in from about 30 or 40 yards out. I always remember that one. That I gave the Eagles a touchdown there. But that was a tough game. Cold, tough game. But I said that might have been the only time I ever voted for the Eagles, because I was just so sick and tired of the freaking Cowboys always going to the Super Bowl and their playoff wins and all that. I was so sick and tired of seeing them. So might have been the only time I ever voted for the Eagles in my life, because I don't think I voted for them since then. So that would set up the Super Bowl between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Oakland Raiders, and it was not much of a Super Bowl. I mean, somehow, I don't know how, Ron Jaworski made Rod Martin, the linebacker for the Oakland Raiders, look like the greatest. Look 300 times better than Lawrence Taylor ever did. Rod Martin had 3 interceptions in that game. Every time Ron Jaworski dropped back to pass, he was, I think, strictly looking for Rod Martin. Where's Rod at? There he is. Let me throw him the ball. It was just unbelievable. Absolutely horrible performance by Ron Jaworski. Absolute trash. Unbelievable. See what I don't know what did he wind up at? It was 18 out of 38. I mean, the Eagles couldn't run the ball. They ran the ball 26 times for 69 yards, 2.7 yards a carry. Ron Jaworski was 18 out of 38, threw 3 interceptions, all to Rod Martin. I mean, just absolute horrible. Plunkett, on the other hand, was 13 out of 21, 261 yards, 3 touchdowns. Ron Jaworski's quarterback rating was a 49.3. I mean, Wilbur Montgomery, was a very good running back. He had 16 carries for 44 yards. But I mean, it was a really bad. I mean, who was it to? Was it the King? Yeah, the Raiders were up 7-0, and it was still in the first quarter. Anybody's game, but it was right toward the end of the first quarter, and the Raiders had the ball on their own 20-yard line. So Plunkett drops back to pass. I think it was a little bit of a rush. He scrambles, runs around a little bit. And Kenny King is standing kind of on the sideline. So Plunkett, throws it to him, and he catches it, and he just takes off, runs down the side. Nobody touches him. I don't think anybody. I know Blitnikoff threw a good block down toward the end there or something, but it was just amazing. I mean, the running back, he throws it out. He was maybe 10, 20 yards down the field, and he catches it, and he runs like 50, 60 yards with it right down the sideline. I don't think anybody touched him. I'm like, what kind of defense is that? Absolutely horrible. I mean, the Eagles didn't score a touchdown until the fourth quarter. They were down 24-3. I mean, they're going into the fourth quarter. Barr kicked a 46-yard field goal to put them up 24-3. So heading into the fourth quarter, I mean, the Eagles are down, 21 points, 3 touchdowns. Well, finally, Keith Crapfley got an 8-yard touchdown reception from Ron Jaworski. So now they're down 24-10. So there's some small glimmer of hope, but that guy got wiped away when the Raiders went on 11-play, 72-yard drive, and Barr kicked another 35-yard field goal to put them up 27-10 with 8.5 minutes to go in the game. And don't forget, 27-10, that was 17 points back there in 1980. That's 3 scores. So that pretty much kind of iced the game right there. It was not a very good. I mean, just the turnovers, were just. I mean, it was just unbelievable. I mean, really, I mean, that one play to Kenny King, the 80-yard touchdown run. I mean, 80-yard touchdown reception. I mean, but he caught it on the sideline. He ran all the way down the side. I don't think anybody touched him. It's like horrible defense. Just, and there's three interceptions that Rod Martin had. It was just horrible passing by Ron Jaworski. I mean, it was really, really bad. It was not much of a, I was kind of sick and tired of the Raiders too, because they were very good in the 70s. But I don't want to really say I pulled for the Eagles in that one either. But it was hard to say I really pulled for any. I sat there and watched the game. I can't say I enjoyed it because it was a horrible Super Bowl. I mean, after the first quarter, it was 14-0, But I mean, so I can't say that I enjoyed it, but I can't really say I voted for either team. I mean, it was one of those games. I think I just went there, just sat down there and watched it just to enjoy, to see the competition, maybe be a close game, exciting game. It was nothing. It was a really bad. It was a really bad Super Bowl, just kind of like the Giants season was. But as I said, because they went 4-12. Allowed them to draft number 2 overall in the 1981 draft, which allowed them to take the GOAT of defense. So you can't, But that wraps up the 1980 season, which, thank goodness, wraps up the wilderness seasons for the New York Giants. 17 seasons from 1964 to 1980. No playoff appearances, 2 winning seasons, but that all comes to an end tomorrow. The next season, 1981 season, which I'm going to do tomorrow night, which just happened to be the 57th season in the history of the New York Giants. I'll see you then.